Hi there guys, how you all doing? Welcome to another video where we are going to be covering Memento today. Post-ROTA, it got a little bit of new support in Rage of the Abyss, so I thought we'd just throw out the deck profile again, especially because we've only just gone through like the combos and everything that you can do. So we did get the Memento and Akihiron. So let's take a look at the deck profile, see what we can come up with. If you enjoy this deck profile, then please do subscribe down below. We're trying to hit 250 subscribers by the end of the year, and I can only do it with your help. So yeah, let's take a look at the deck profile, see what we can come up with, and see what we got going on. Alright, Memento was already a really strong deck even before this new wave of support, so this addition is only going to increase its power, hopefully to get it some positions at YCSs and things like that. But with that, let's get into the profile. Starting off with this particular build with a single copy of Combined Creation. Combined Creation, I feel that you can only have it, you only need it as a one-off now because Akihiron has the chance of bringing it back from the banish. I always kept two of Combined Creation in the deck just in case one got banished, because it is the main boss monster in the deck. But yeah, now I've reduced it to one because we've got the chance of being able to bring it back. So Combined Creation cannot be normal summoned. A set must be special summoned from your hand or graveyard by shuffling 5 other Memento monsters with different names from your hand and or graveyard into the deck or extra deck. Whilst you control no monsters, this card can attack all monsters that your opponent controls once per turn. If your opponent activates a card or effect, except during the damage step, you can special summon one Memento monster from your graveyard, hand or graveyard. Next up, we have got 3 copies of Memento and Anguish. Memento and Anguish being the main searcher for the deck. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add one Memento monster from your deck to your hand, except for Anguish. You can target one level 2 or lower Memento monster that you control, in your graveyard. Destroy one Memento monster that you control, and if you do, special summon the targeted monster, and you can only use each effect once per turn. Best normal summon in the deck alongside Memento Darkblade. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can discard one Memento card, then target one spell or trap that your opponent controls and destroy it. Then during your main phase, you can destroy one Memento monster that you control, and if you do, special summon one level 3 or lower Memento monster from your deck. And you can only use each effect once per turn. So Darkblade is the perfect card to be able to go into your Anguish. Next up, we have got 3 copies of Memento Tatsunu Toshigo. So if you do not control any face-up monsters other than Memento monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. And then during your main phase, you can destroy one Memento monster that you control, send any number of Memento monsters with different names from your deck to the graveyard whose total levels are less than or equal to the destroyed monster's original level. You can only use each effect once per turn. It's a fantastic extender. Sending monsters to the graveyard is exactly what Memento wants to do. Next up, we have got 2 copies of Memento Mace. During your opponent's main phase, if you control a Combined Creation, quick effect, you can discard this card, target one face-up monster that your opponent controls and take control of it until the end phase. And during your main phase, you can destroy one Memento monster that you control, and if you do, add a Memento card from deck to your hand, except for Mace. You could run Mace as a one-off if you wanted to include something else in the build, something generic in the build, but I do still like running 2 Memento Maces. Next up, we are running 2 copies of Memento Goblin. During your main phase, if you control Combined Creation, you can discard this card. For the rest of this turn, your opponent cannot target Memento monsters that you control with card effects. That is a quick effect. During your main phase, you can destroy one Memento monster you control. If you do, send up to 2 Memento cards with different names from each other from your deck to the graveyard, except for Goblin. You can only use each effect once per turn. Goblin is another one of the 1-card starters that I showed off in my combo video. Link will be down below for that, so make sure that you check that out. It is pre-Akihiron being released. Next up, we've got 2 copies of Memento and Sleepy. During the turn that your monster in your possession was destroyed by a card effect, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if this card is normal or special summoned, you can fusion summon one Memento fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field. If this card is destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can send one Memento card from your deck to the graveyard, except for Sleepy, and you can only use each effect once per turn. Sleepy is so powerful. Next up, we've got a single copy of Memento Gatic. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can target one Memento card in your graveyard, except for Gatic, and add it to your hand. If this card is sent to the graveyard by a Memento monster's effect, you can special summon this card. You can only use each effect once per turn. Next up, Memento Horned Dragon. If you have 3 or more Memento monsters with different names in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon Horned Dragon once per turn this way. If this card on the field is destroyed by a card effect, you can target 3 face-up cards on the field, including a Memento card that you control, and destroy them. You can only use each effect once per turn. Alright, next up, we've got the new support that came out in Rage of the Abyss. We got a single copy of Memento Akihiro. And I only think that you need 1 copy. The fact that you can search so much in this deck is really enough to be able to just run 1 copy of this. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can activate this effect. This turn, level 9 or higher Memento monsters can attack directly, which means that your Fusion for Creation King and your Combined Creation will be able to attack directly, and that is 8,000 in total. If this card is destroyed by a card effect, you can target one of your other Memento cards that is banished or in your graveyard and add it to your hand. And if a Memento monster in your hand or face-up field is destroyed by a battle or card effect whilst this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card. You can only use each effect once per turn. Fantastic extender for the deck. It is absolutely wonderful. Next up, we have got, lastly, 3 copies of Ash Blossom just to round out the monsters. So that is all of the monsters that we've got, and now let's move us on to our spells and our traps, starting off with 3 copies of Memento Bone Party. Destroy 1 Memento monster in your hand or face-up field and take 1 Memento monster from your deck with a different name. Either add it to your hand or special summon it in defense position. During your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 Memento monster that you control. If it attacks a defense position monster this turn, inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent. And you can only use each effect once per turn. Next up, we've got 3 copies of Memento Fusion. Memento Fusion, during the main phase, fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material, including a Memento monster. If a monster in your possession was destroyed by a card effect this turn, you can also shuffle Memento monsters from your graveyard into the deck as material. During your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, destroy 1 monster that you control, and if you do, add 1 Memento spell or trap from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect once per turn. Next up, we have got a single copy of Memento Learn, the field spell here. If your Memento monster battles, your opponent cannot activate any spells or traps until the end of the damage step. If a monster that you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target one of those monsters, special summon 1 Memento monster with a lower level from your hand or graveyard. You can only use this effect of Memento Learn once per turn. And then once per turn during your end phase, you can target 1 Memento spell or trap in your graveyard and set it. Because we've got the option of being able to search for the field spell, we only need to run 1 of them. Next up, another new card that appeared in Rage of the Abyss. We have got Goblin Biker Grand Breakout. So, you contribute 1 monster to special summon 1 Goblin monster from your deck, but it cannot attack this turn. So this is a fantastic way of just getting extra Goblin, Memento Goblins on the field, just so you can, you know, if you happen to not have one of the 1-card starters, you've got the option of being able to get it in, or you can use it as an extender. The rest of it doesn't apply to anything that we have got going on in this, but it's an extra one. I was unsure whether to just run 1 of Grand Breakout or 2. I actually do have a 3rd copy as well, but I don't think 3 is really necessary. Next up, we've got 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. We've got 1 copy of 1 for 1. This is the reason that I'm not using 3 copies of Goblin Biker, because we've got the copy of 1 for 1 as well, because 1 for 1 is more useful to be able to send a card from hand to graveyard rather than tributing. We've got a single copy of Called By and a single copy of Reinforcement of the Army. And then rounding out the deck, we've just got 2 traps. 1 copy of Memento Cranium Burst. So when you control a Memento monster, your opponent's monsters that can attack must attack the Memento monster that you control with the highest attack, their choice if tied. When your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, except during the damage step, you can target one combined creation that you control, and it loses exactly 1,000 attack and defense, and if it does, negate that activated effect. You can only activate this effect once per chain. And then lastly, we have got 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. So that is everything that we've got going on in the main deck. Let's move over to the extra deck now, which has seen very little change from the last ones, admittedly, although I did realise the error of my ways, which I'll talk about in a second. So, first up, we've got 2 copies of Memento Tekutlika Creation King. I really shouldn't have attempted to pronounce that name. So you can banish this card from your graveyard to add 1 field spell from your deck to your hand. One of the field spells, should I say, that I just don't want to pronounce again. You can activate the following effects of Creation King in the same chain. If this card is fusion summoned, you can send 3 Memento cards from your deck and or extra deck to the graveyard. Then quick effect, you can also target an equal number of Memento monsters that you control and cards that your opponent controls and destroy them. You can only use each effect once per turn. It's such a strong card, and the artwork is amazing for it, so I love that card so much. Next up, we've got 2 copies of Memento Twin Dragon. So any monster destroyed by battle with your Memento monster is banished instead. You can only use each of the following effects of Twin Dragon once per turn. If this card is fusion summoned, you can destroy 1 Memento monster in your hand or face-up field, and if you do, add up to 2 Memento monsters with different names from your deck to your hand. And then if this fusion monster is fusion summoned card is destroyed, you can special summon 1 level 6 or lower Memento monster from your graveyard. And then rounding out the fusions, we have 1 copy of Guardian Chimera. So Guardian Chimera must first be fusion summoned using only fusion materials from your hand and field, with at least 1 monster from each. If this card is fusion summoned by a spell card or effect, you can draw cards equal to the number of cards used as material from the hand, and if you do, destroy cards your opponent controls equal to the number of materials used from the field. You can only use this effect of Guardian Chimera once per turn, and whilst Polymerization is in your graveyard, your opponent cannot target this card with card effects, but we don't run Polymerization. Now moving on to the links, we have a single copy of Relinquished Anima. We have a single copy of IP Masquerena. IP Masquerena is critical in this deck. I really do think that it is such a powerful card in this deck. We've got a single copy of Cross Sheep. Now, this was a card that I actually forgot about when it came to my original profile, but I'm not forgetting it this time because we've got the fusion monsters to be able to special summon a level 4 or lower monster from the graveyard when we special summon a card, and we've got a fusion that is Cross Sheep is pointing to, so it's really, really strong. We've got a single copy of SP Little Knight, 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix, 1 copy of Nightmare Cerberus, 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn, 1 copy of Avramax, 1 copy of Access Code Talker, and then finally 1 copy of Underworld Goddess. So we've got plenty of removal, we've got stuff that we can use to destroy. We've got a wide variety of things going on in the extra deck that is really useful for using both the in-engine stuff with the fusions and then the sort of generic extra deck link monsters that you can get. So with that, that is the end of the deck profile. Thank you very much, everybody who has watched. I really do appreciate it. Memento is such a powerful deck. It is so fun to play as well. And you can spend so much of your time just playing during your opponent's turn that it really does interrupt so much. But yeah, go and check out my combo video for more information on that. And with that, we are going to finish off here. Thank you very much, everybody. I'll see you later.